A new study from Johns Hopkins University reveals troubling information surrounding the safety of bridges across the U.S.
According to the data, several major bridges are at high risk of being hit by ships over the next few years, and that list includes the Bay Bridge.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Maxine Stryker.
And I'm Mary Bubala. The new report comes just days before the one-year anniversary of the Key Bridge collapse. 6 construction workers were killed after the Dolly cargo ship crashed into the bridge.
Fox 45's Jessica Babb joins us live now with a closer look at what this new study means. Jessica.
The study shows there's a real risk of a ship possibly hitting the Bay Bridge one day, and experts with Johns Hopkins University who are behind the study say the state needs to take action and put more preventative measures in place. With this moment of the Key Bridge collapsing seared into our minds,
we wanted to ask the question, what are the chances that this could happen to another bridge across the U.S.?
Experts with Johns Hopkins University have found an alarming answer.
We found that there are several bridges that are at pretty significant risk of a major collision.
With lots of big ships passing under our bridges day in and day out, Michael Shields, a professor of civil and systems engineering at Johns Hopkins University, studied the risk that one of those ships could hit our major bridges. The Bay Bridge making the list as one of the most vulnerable bridges.
The Bay Bridge, we estimate, would expect a collision once every 86 years. And what that means is that there's a significant risk on an annual basis that a collision will occur, like what happened with the Key Bridge. And as a result, protective measures really should be put in place.
This study coming out in the wake of damning news from the National Transportation Safety Board, where Chair Jennifer Homendy said the Maryland Transportation Authority failed to conduct recommended assessments on the Key Bridge, which would have shown to state officials the Key Bridge was at a high risk of collapsing after getting hit by a ship.
The collapse could have been prevented.
Homendy also quick to point out the Bay Bridge has also not been evaluated. While the MDTA says the Bay Bridge is currently being evaluated, they've put all the responsibility on the owners and operators of the Dolly after major issues with the ship have been brought to light, which caused it to crash into the Key Bridge.
It was the sole fault of the Dolly and the sole fault of the reckless operators.
Governor Wes Moore finally speaking out this weekend, echoing that sentiment.
The Key Bridge has passed every single federal assessment for literally over 30 years. And so the Federal Highway Administration and the federal government had claimed and continue to state that the Key Bridge was not the issue. There wasn't a bridge in the country that could have taken that impact.
Political expert John Dede says,
if you accept just 1% of the blame, you're going to end up in a situation where someone's going to ask you to pay for certain damages, you're going to get sued, et cetera, et cetera.
And while it's impossible to know what could have happened had more preventative measures been put in place on the Key Bridge,
assessing risk is expensive and involves political will and an investment that the risk wasn't understood at that time.
Shields says it's an investment that needs to be made and says the risk assessments in question should be mandated.
I do think that the risk is very real and that the risk needs to be taken seriously and that protective measures likely need to be put in place.
And there were a total of 20 bridges all across the country that were listed in this study. As for the Key Bridge, they predicted, based on their calculations, it would fall within 48 years. The bridge was 46 when it fell. Live in Baltimore, Jessica Babb, Fox 45 News.
I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you for watching. Here's another video for you to watch. Also take some time to subscribe to our YouTube channel.